This time we have a nice triangle problem. Let's go over the question. We have this triangle ABC, which is given to be an equilateral triangle. Then we have equal line segments BF and ED. Also, line segments AE and CD are given to be equal. And we are asked the angle alpha. Now let's start our solution. First of all, we know that internal angles of an equilateral triangle are 60 degrees. So let's show these angles on the diagram. For the next step, let's draw a parallel line to line segment AC from point D and extend line segment BA to intersect with the parallel line at point G. Now let's remember corresponding angles with a diagram of two parallel lines cut by a transversal line. In this diagram, the angles with green color will have the same angle measure, or in other words, they are congruent. Now let's go back to our question. In our case, we have these two yellow parallel lines and a cut in green transversal line. So this angle should also be 60 degrees. Now assume this line to be our transversal line. So this angle should be 60 degrees also. Now we know that all internal angles of large triangle GBD are 60 degrees. Therefore, it is also an equilateral triangle. Also notice that this small angle will be 60 minus alpha degrees. Now let's focus on this triangle on the right side and assume that it is an isosceles or equilateral triangle. And let's draw a parallel line inside this triangle. This parallel line will divide the sides such that the opposite parts will be equal. And it doesn't matter where you draw the parallel line, opposite line segments will always be equal. Now let's get back to our question and focus on these blue parts. And if we use what we have seen before, these opposite line segments should be equal. Let's also show that on the diagram. Now let's reset the colors and explanations for the next steps. Our next move will be connecting point G and point E. By doing so, we have created this isosceles triangle. In isosceles triangles, we have two equal sides, and they are called the legs of the triangle. The angles corresponding to these equal sides are called the base angles, and base angles are equal in measure. Now let's get back to our question, and call the base angles of this orange isosceles triangle as beta degrees. And now let's remember exterior angle theorem. In a triangle, an exterior angle is equal to sum of the measures of two opposite interior angles. Keeping this in mind, let's get back to our question. Now using exterior angle theorem, we can write 2 beta is equal to 60 degrees. And from here we can see that our base angles are 30 degrees each. Let's also see this on the question. After this, we can see that this angle will also be 30 degrees. Now let's clear the diagram for the next steps. To move on, let's connect point B and point E and focus on these two triangles. These two triangles share a common side, which is line segment GE shown in green color. Since the large triangle is equilateral, these two sides of these two triangles are also equal. And also, the angle between these equal sides is equal in both triangles, which is 30 degrees. Therefore, we can conclude that these two triangles are congruent by side angle side rule. And from here, we can say that the remaining sides of these triangles should also be equal. Now let's focus on this triangle. We see that this is an isosceles triangle. So its left base angle should also be alpha degrees. And from here, we see that this angle will be 60 minus alpha degrees. Now use exterior angle theorem on blue triangle. So this angle will be 2 alpha degrees. Now finally, pay attention to this triangle. We know that line segment BF is equal to line segment BE. So this one is also an isosceles triangle. As we discussed earlier, its base angles should be equal. Now let's sum up the internal angles of this shaded triangle. And that will be 2 alpha plus 2 alpha plus 60 minus alpha equals 180 degrees. This will be equal to 3 alpha plus 60 equals 180 degrees. If we subtract 60 from both sides, 3 alpha will be equal to 120 degrees. And from here, alpha will be equal to 40 degrees. And this will be our answer. If you enjoyed this solution, please give a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time.